Drummer Nation, good day, everybody. This is Dave DiCenso here. I'm going to share a story for Drummer Nation Drum Stories. I got a fun one. This goes back to, I'm going to say 2004 is my guess. I was playing with a jazz pianist named Hiromi, who many of you probably know or certainly have heard of. And this was early in her career. And she, so she didn't have a ton of money behind her at this point. And actually, I wasn't, now that I think of it, I wasn't even playing with her anymore. I had stopped playing with her, but she called me to sub for her drummer on a short little West Coast stint. I think we did like 3 or 4 dates. And the first date was at Yoshi's in, I believe Yoshi's is in Oakland. And I was living in Boston at the time. And I had, Hiromi's management flew me out the day of the gig. Just not a good idea, right? But I'm guessing they did that, for financial reasons. I don't know exactly, but yeah, bad idea. So I have to get up at the crack of dawn, and get to the airport for my flight, and they. Another detail with this story is they booked me. They didn't book a direct flight. They had me going through Chicago, of course, and so I've got a connection. I've got to get off the plane at O'Hare and get a connecting flight. And I'm traveling with a bag of cymbals, probably a case of cymbals, and a double pedal because I'm I'm neurotic about my pedals. Meaning, I can put any. You know what? I won't say put any pair of sticks. I mean, I have my favorite sticks too, but my favorite heads. But I'll get the job done. I'll get the job done no matter what. But pedals, it's a big deal for me. So I used to travel with my pedal. I still do actually. If need be, I still will. So I've got cymbals, double pedal, and it's no fun traveling with a double pedal. Right, I do it because it's important to me, and then a bag of sticks, right, stick bag and brushes and whatever, mallets and so forth, and of course a suitcase. So I get to O'Hare, and sure enough, I think what happened, if I remember correctly, we had to circle O'Hare for a while, so we're late getting there, and I miss my connection. And so the next flight, and I think I was flying into San Francisco. So I had to get to Oakland. Once I got to San Francisco, I still had a ways to go to get to the gig. So I missed that connection flight. The next one's like, I don't know, it was a couple hours I had to sit in the airport waiting for this next flight. And I get that next flight, and I did have a cell phone. This was like the early days of cell phones. I mean, people probably had cell phones several years before I did, but I was new to cell phones at the time, and I had no internet or anything. It's just like if I had numbers and so I didn't have the number for the car service that was supposed to meet me at the airport and take me to Oakland. So I get to San Francisco, and I'm hours late. I can't call the car service, and they're not there. And to boot, all my shit is lost. It didn't arrive. So I've got nothing. I don't even have my suitcase. Never mind all my, my cymbals and sticks and pedals. And so I have to wait in this frickin' line to report that my shit is missing. And all the time the clock's ticking, and I'm just like sweating now. Like I had already been sweating. And, and this was like an 8 o'clock hit. It wasn't like we were going on at midnight. And fortunately, I guess in hindsight, you gain 3 hours, right, going from east to west. So I had that working in my favor. But I had been up since the crack of dawn at this point, and I'm late. I have no luggage, no instruments, and I have no ride. So I think I ended up taking, I don't know what I got on first, a train, a taxi, a bus. For some reason you would think that I don't think I had an address for this place, for Yoshi's. I don't think I had an address. Otherwise, I think I would have just gotten a taxi right from the airport and, and had him take me right to Yoshi's. Although that would have probably been expensive. And who knows if I would have been reimbursed. I got to say, Hiromi was a monster talent. She is a monster talent, but I wasn't thrilled with her management company. And so, anyway, however the hell I did it, I definitely was on a train at one point. I want to say the last thing maybe I was on was a bus. I don't know, but I think I did all three. Train, bus, taxi, I don't know. The bottom line is I show up and the doors are about to open. This is the best part of the story. So I know, thankfully I had that cell phone, and I knew that Steve Smith, legendary drummer, my buddy Steve Smith, was coming to the show. So he lived in the area, and he was coming to the show. So I had remembered that. So I think I called Steve and I called Hiromi. And I didn't know what they were going to be able to get from me to play. So I call Hiromi and tell her the situation. And so she gets working on, getting me cymbals. And I believe it was a Sunday to boot. So I don't think music stores were open. So she gets to work on getting me whatever she can get me. I don't know what she's going to be able to get me. So I think, I'll call. And sticks were important enough at this point because I didn't want to be playing, like giant sticks on this jazz fusion gig. Did I say fusion? Jazz fusion gig. I didn't want to be playing, frickin' marching sticks or anything. So I call Steve, and he's actually on his way to the gig, right? I'm not even at the gig yet. And I asked him if he's got any sticks with him. And he happened to have one pair of sticks in the car with him. And so I show up, doors are about to open. I do a quick line check. Hiromi was able to get me, or whoever was able to get me, some cymbals, a double pedal, which was nothing like the one I was carrying with me, which had been lost. and and it's here's the most exciting part of the story is all the sticks that they were able to get me were the sticks that drummers had left behind that were in the frickin' green room, all chopped up. There wasn't a matching pair, and there wasn't a solid pair amongst them. It was like you know, a handful of sticks, and they were all crap. And so I fortunately had a pair of Steve Smith's sticks to play that night. And, you know, I'm a lot of people think I'm an easygoing, relaxed, chilled out dude, and I'm not. I have that sort of external, um, there's this external perception that I guess I put off. But I was shitting my pants. I was really stressed out. And like, even if everything went perfectly, you know, back then especially, I was still struggling with performance anxiety, and Hiromi's gig was no walk in the park. This shit was demanding musically and physically even. Um, so I was a mess. But check this out, and this is there's also a moral to this story. I had checked out. I had been through so much stress getting to this gig that by the time I got there, I was like, I don't even give a shit what happens. If this is the worst gig of my life, who's going to blame me? I'm not going to blame me, you know? So I'd taken myself off the hook. And that turned out to be a blessing. Um, because I didn't care what happened at that point. And we did 2 sets that night. And man, it was just like one of those nights, man, where like everything was cool, everything sounded good, I felt good, and there was I call Steve my buddy. I mean, he's first of all, he was a drum hero of mine when I was coming up, not just with Journey, but he also played on this record called "The Edge of Insanity" by Tony McAlpine, and he was playing like hard, like progressive metal drums. You know, like music. The music was hard progressive metal, and he killed it, man. And he did it in a way that you could tell this drummer, if you didn't know who it was, this drummer had a little bit more, remember, a lot of bit more than just your sort of uh, your average or typical metal vocabulary. Um, and I was just all over that album. I was a total metalhead when I was a teenager. I was really into it, and the progressive rock and double bass, and you know, and so Steve Smith just killed this record, and all the Journey stuff. And I had heard you know, some of the Vital Information records, the early ones. So Steve was, I would say, he was a genuine drum hero of mine growing up, and certainly an influence. And we became acquaintances and over the years, and he was extremely, you know, generous to me, in terms of just giving me support, like just like moral, verbal support. Just, you know, when one of your drum heroes tells you they dig what you do, you know, it feels good, right? It's motivating, and gives you, you know, sense of validation and confidence that you might not have had. So, you know, so just a crazy 24 hours, insane, uh, made more crazy and insane by the way I dealt with stress back then in my life. I magnified it, you know, uh, and and it was one of the best gigs and I hadn't played with Hiromi in I don't probably about a year because I had left like the year prior, I think, and we didn't rehearse, and there was no time to rehearse at sound check. All I could do was basically do a line check, and like I said, I was off the hook in my own mind, and we had a couple of burning sets, and I felt really good about it, and I was so happy because Steve Smith was in the audience, and as much as I had my ego checked out of the equation, somewhere in the back of my mind, I wanted to play my ass off for my drum hero, one of my drum heroes, right? Who wouldn't? And so, that was the happy ending to this crazy story. And I think I still have that pair of sticks somewhere down here in my basement. So yeah, man, that's my drum story. And so Steve, thank you again for not only providing me with the pair of sticks that I used that whole night, but just being that support for me at that time. I really appreciate it. And if whoever's listening to this, if you don't know who Steve Smith is, he's a legend. Go check him out. In fact, he went on to play with Hiromi. Hiromi had called me several years later, and I was touring with Josh Groban, and so I wasn't able to do her album and tour that she wanted me to do all these years later, and she asked me for recommendations, and I recommended Steve because I knew he dug that music, and I knew he would, kill it. So just a cool little story. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. All right, Drummer Nation, peace and love. We'll see you again.